Good afternoon, everybody. This is John with Master's Tale. I'm on with Fisher today. We're doing another little fun writing exercise. So today, what we're going to be discussing is how we write superheroes at different power levels. It was something that he and I had a conversation about where we were looking at some of these mid-tier heroes that struggled a little bit to stand out whenever they were in an ensemble cast. And so we're just going to be creating this tier list, then discussing how we would rank said heroes, and then from there, discussing how we would actually put them into a tabletop game and mimic those mechanics. So first, let's rank these. And how are we ranking these heroes? Well, we're not just ranking them by every comic and every source possible. What we're doing is, as a casual to intermediate fan who's watched most of the DC animated movies, this is about how strong these characters feel, right? So can Flash technically beat anybody, maybe, or Green Lantern or whatever? Sure. But
essentially, we're ranking them via public perception.
Exactly. Nobody's going to say, yes, Green Lantern beats Superman every time. They're going to say Green Lantern gets curb stomped by Superman, like in the Justice League animated film. So, Fisher, any thoughts before we get on into this?
Well, one statement I want to make is that any hero or any character can beat absolutely any character. It all depends on the writer. And why we're doing this perception kind of ranking is how a lot of writers tend to portray these characters. We're not looking at individual takes on these characters, because a writer who really, really likes Green Lantern, piggybacking off of your example, might be able to make him take on Superman with quite a bit of success. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's a writer who's done it or wanted to do it or thought about how he could do it. And anyway, I actually saw a video recently that was the only reason speeders ever lose is because of bad writing. And right. I would basically say the same thing for any number of this cast. The only reason they lose is because of bad writing. Now, mind you, they do have to lose at some point. A hero that always wins is a very boring hero. But you also have to play to the strengths of who they're fighting and what they're fighting.
So with that being said, we talked about this and we wanted to put normal humans in D and Superman in S. So Batman, this is not Batman with special gadgets or prep time or whatever. This is Batman walking around in his regular gear as a regular person. This doesn't mean Batman can't beat Superman or anybody else. This is just where we're putting them for the sake of scaling the powers of these people. So this is where we'll start, and we're going to go from there. So the Flash. Most people are familiar with Barry Allen as the Flash from a lot of modern stuff, but mostly from the Justice League animated world. Where are your thoughts on him generally? Because he's actually pretty hard to place in my mind.
Well, I've seen about maybe 4 properties with him in it. 5, actually. I saw the CW show.
Mm-hmm.
And also Young Justice, the old DCAU.
He runs anywhere from light speed to just above the speed of sound.
Like, to literally affect
crazy how different it is.
Like, Flashpoint is a thing. The fact that he can rewrite time. And it's just, that's okay. Like, that's the reason why people kind of dismiss him as the Joker, and then, well, not the literal Joker, but as in the kind of comedic aid of the cast of the Justice League, because there needs to be one. And then he's given some pretty ridiculous powers on the side. Like, he can just run back and create a whole new universe. Okay.
Yeah, it's very strange because you'll have him get like taken out by like a stray backhand from like Doomsday and then beat Lex Luthor and Brainiac combined. So I'm thinking for him, the only reason why I wouldn't put him in S tier is because he is inconsistently written. I'd put him in A. He's just below
Yeah,
Superman in most things, but then has random moments of being unbeatable, basically.
just like I said earlier, it takes the writer to make him work because generally, and someone pointed this out about the CW show. The CW show would have been over in an instant had he just used his powers most of the time.
Sure.
It's kind of sad because he's a really interesting character, and they've made a lot of good, flashes, kid flashes. Uh, Godspeed is one that they kind of screwed over. But basically, what I'm saying is that when you write a speedster, it is controversial based on how much you give him, especially if you keep giving him powerful plot point powers a la Flashpoint. So, yeah, I think would be a good one. He can't body Superman in every form of media, but Superman usually can no sell everything if we really look at it. So, or at least people put him at the top.
So the next one is Green Arrow. I feel like Green Arrow is right there along with Batman. Not that he's bad. He can definitely beat other superheroes, but he's a regular person. There's nothing about him that's like, he's going to go and solo Doomsday or Darkseid or something like that.
So my perception on Green Arrow is a little interesting. I saw the CW show. That was my first kind of perception on Green Arrow, other than Batman, the Brave and the Bold.
Yeah, and he can
So
kind of fight the Flash in that one, right? Like he's like,
yeah, well, then again, like Brave and the Bold is more of a jokey, like Silver Age comic stuff, or
sure.
the Gold. I forget exactly. I'm not a comic historian, but as far as the CW show went, he's a gritty hero. Well, that's a gritty show, but basically, he's meant to just be another Batman, not exactly XP, but and again, I don't know why he was created or if he was created for a different company and
The
they folded
fame of
into
Robin Hood,
DC.
basically.
Yeah, he's a Robin Hood. He's a modern day Robin Hood, and it spawned off of that. He's not a bad character, and he has some very interesting villains at times, but they're never like taking a term from the ranking folks. He's city block level. Like there isn't
Yeah,
exactly
like
anything really
Merlin.
strong that he's
Yeah.
fought on, unless, hey, prove me wrong. I don't know the Green Lantern mythos is. I'm sorry, pardon, Green Arrow.
Well,
Got
yeah.
too
So
many
taking
green
from,
characters, but yeah.
I mean, I would say his two most popular things are Arrow and then his stint in Justice League Unlimited, where the whole point of him in Justice League Unlimited was that he was the common man. And
Yep.
he was always in over his head. And that was what was kind of entertaining. Unlike Batman, who always has a perfect plan, Green Arrow is kind of like, I've got a bunch of trick arrows and I'm going to try to deal with them. So I feel comfortable putting him around where Batman is
Yeah,
as
I would
far as
agree.
powers.
Well, that being said, he's also got a lot less training than Batman. I don't
Sure.
know his origins as far as his training, but in the CW show, he gets trapped on an island.
Yeah, I
And
think that's the
all that.
general gist of
I
his
think so.
background.
Prove me wrong, comment
Yeah.
section. But Batman went on a multi-year binge of training.
But you
That
notice what's
keeps getting
interesting
added
about
on.
what's interesting about this list right here, though, so far is both Batman and Green Arrow are great written characters. So I wonder if that'll keep holding.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
And
so
now both of them have been written poorly before, but
oh sure.
in general, people like them, and people like how they were written. People like how they're portrayed.
Okay, Black Canary, I feel like with her supersonic scream is one step above like humans. I would put her ironically in C for Canary. Unless you have like a different spot you'd put her.
No, I would agree with that one. She does have roughly that kind of tiering, I would say. The
Right.
thing
It's
with
not
Black
like Black
Canary,
Canary's gonna like dead stop, Orion or Darkseid or Steppenwolf or something by screaming at him. But she'll
So
take out like a room of people.
the thing with Black Canary is she fits in with the Green Arrow mythos. I think she has her own run and that sort of thing. But the first time I ever saw her was Batman Brave and the Bold, and she was fighting Solomon Grundy. But basically, she's just another street level hero. Nothing wrong with that. Those kind of stories being so small in scope usually lend itself to better writing. And that might be a generalization, but looking at a smaller street corner and saying what all happens on that particular street corner. Like the smaller you get, the more details you get.
Right. Well, and the other thing too that I really like about her is she's often, and why I put her one step above Green Arrow is she's often saving him. Right. They're like
Yeah.
canonically a couple, both kind of street level fighters, but she's just got that powerhouse in her. Okay, the Atom. So
Oh boy.
he can size shape to become giant or small. I very rarely see him. He's tagged Black Adam with a lucky punch in the Black Adam movie. He is mostly used as like a kind of sneaky agent almost because he can shrink. This one's kind of weird. I almost want to put him in D just because he's normally used as like a specialist. But what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so do you know why they don't often use him very much?
Why?
There was a comic series called Countdown, and I'm not going to get into the wide history of it, but basically it was the DC universe is ending or having some kind of great disaster, literally, in quotes, the great disaster. And basically, a lot of DC characters go on this wild chase through the different universes to find Ray Palmer to solve the great disaster. Let's just say Countdown didn't go so well. I know that's all long ago rewritten, but it's soured a lot of fans on the concept of Ray Palmer. So yeah, as far as what he's done, I can think of maybe The Brave and the Bold. I didn't even watch the Black Adam movie, so I genuinely...
He has interesting stuff in that, like, he likes when Amazo comes in Justice League Unlimited and he beats the whole Justice League, the Atom shrinks himself down. And because Amazo's trying to come to get Lex Luthor, and he shrinks Lex Luthor down like subatomically, maybe C. I mean, it's just so weird. He's just got
He's got a very niche power set that he tends to use his brain more often than his actual power, which is he tends to not like put those two together. And I blame writers a lot for that. They don't go, hey, that's a character that can do. Look, Hank Pym over in Marvel can do a whole lot of stuff. I don't know why the Atom has been kind of sidelined. Maybe it's that he has a very basic
what's
costume
wild
design.
about it too is they had him shrink down with like a microscopic piece of kryptonite and go into Superman's bloodstream in Injustice, the film.
Yeah.
And he like took out Superman temporarily because of his weird set. So I'm going to put him at C, C-ish.
Yeah.
The question, I feel really comfortable with the question in D. I don't see any reason he's not particular. I mean, he's like Batman light almost. And now there are some like super powered versions of him, but they never make it to the mainstream. The only real thing I can think of the question from is Justice League Unlimited.
Now, should I ruin this whole section by speaking in nothing but questions?
No, you that would be the worst. But unless you feel differently, I feel like he could go in D. As far as powers are concerned.
No, he's a super interesting character. Hold on. The question is a super interesting character. I really love when he shows up because he's the most neurotic character that ends up being really fun to watch work. He's not Batman. He's Batman
right a lot of the time.
No, he's right, and that's the funny. And he's wrong a lot of the points on the most ridiculous things. He's right like, by matter of quality. Quantity, not quality. Batman will seduce something. Pardon, not seduce something. Wow, I'm tired.
Deduce, yeah.
Yeah, Batman
does that too, I guess.
Yeah, I know he does do the seducing thing, but the question will just go, no, this is a thing. He's just a conspiracy theorist. He's just a conspiracy theorist who managed to get high-level clearance in the Justice League.
It's really Alex Jones, the superhero.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite as controversial a character, but
no.
Okay. So next up, Steel. So I've actually seen a lot of Steel. Steel was in um, the it was after the Superman Doomsday movie. I forget what it was called, but it was where a bunch of people were trying to replace Superman. He's shown up in My Adventures with Superman. He's shown up in Justice League Unlimited. Um, Steel is great. I would say builds a mechanized suit to be like Superman, is a big Superman fan. I would say maybe like B. I don't know how familiar you are with Steel as a character because
I'm not. He's relatively newer, I think. He's not one of the OG, I think. If someone can prove me wrong, go ahead. But I am
I haven't
interested
seen
in
him
this.
since, he's newer-ish. I don't see any old shows with like Steel in them.
I think he was newer, but I did like him in that Superman film, and I did like him. Like, he does a lot of good things. He's got a neat kind of vibe to him. He's not, take it this way, he is not Iron Man, and I appreciate that.
And he's got a hammer with a
like,
rocket on the back of it. I mean, that's just,
It's ridiculous, but it also looks kind of neat. He harkens
Are you
back to
cool
a
with
time
B
of.
tier, or would you put him in C? Where would you place him?
I
Because I
would
don't think
put him
he's A
in.
or S.
I would put him in B.
Yeah.
I generally trail things along the type of, okay, one is basic human, two is they've got something interesting or a unique skill, such as being a really good teacher or an astronaut or something like that. Three is, oh, they have a power. Four is they have a trained power. Five is, okay, they're really good with their power. That sort of thing. B, as far as I'm concerned, would fall under that. They're really good at what they do, but their power's not that strong.
Right.
He's good. He's really good, but he's not like strong.
Yeah, he gets beaten in Justice League Unlimited. He gets beat up by the Supergirl clone. He gets beat up by one of the Superman clones. He's good, but he's a punching bag. And this is going to be kind of a trait that we see common around the B, is that they're good, but
they're showing their competency in being a wall as opposed to being a conqueror.
Right. Okay, Dr. Fate. I think that this is the first one in contingency for S tier besides Superman.
Okay, so
I don't know what your thoughts are, but he's just got so many powers.
My issue with Dr. Fate falls under the same issue that magic in any fictional property falls under. Magic is extremely ill-defined. Magic is whatever the writers want him to do, he'll do. And that's kind of, look, I know him from Young Justice. And that actually was kind of a controversial character in Young Justice, believe it or not. But he's literally meant to do whatever the writers want him to do at any certain point against the forces of chaos, literally quoted. I would put him in S because generally he's had some ridiculous things. And generally, people don't put him as a weakling. When it tips down, I would say S in the simple manner that, and someone in the comments might say, oh, but Superman's weak to magic. Well, pretty much everybody's weak to magic. So basically,
we're just talking about how they generally write him, because I'm
if we're comparing,
the Black Adam movie, he gets beat by Black Adam and he gets beat by Sabat, but
I mean, then again, that's one property. Generally,
that's the worst showing I've ever seen for him. That's
what I'm saying. Like that's the exception, not the rule. Most of the time, if you're looking at Dr. Fate, someone will go, okay, that's a heavy hitter. Right. I'd say S. I'd say he's he's the magic version of Superman.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Vixen. So Vixen is interesting, mostly from the property Justice League Unlimited. She has the power to touch a magic amulet and have the power of an animal. So she can be as fast as a cheetah or as strong as an ox or as heavy as an elephant. This one I put this one on the list. She's not as famous, but just because her power set is not flies and punches things, which is a lot of the power sets, I'm fine with putting this one around C. Um,
Yeah, she again has a trained power, and she's probably pretty good, but I can't think of a single feat off the top of my head of what she's done.
yeah,
I
she
might
gets
not
beat
just
up
be
by
very.
Wonder Woman. She's like,
I mean, that's Wonder Woman. I might not be all that familiar with Vixen. I think I've heard her, or I've heard of her,
yeah.
compared with Beast Boy a lot of the time, weirdly enough.
Mhm.
So I, I'm not sure. I can't really give much of an opinion. Neat power though.
Yeah. Captain Atom, canonically, Justice League Unlimited gets beat up by Superman, gets beat up by Superman and Batman, and Superman Public Enemy. I feel like he's an A or a B. I don't. He's impressive, has radioactive power, but like he can channel red sun energy that specifically hurts Superman and still gets beat by him every time they fight. Um,
You
in
know,
common use of this character, I'd say maybe A or B. I don't know what your thought is on it.
I'd say A probably because he is a heavy hitter. But honest to God, like I completely forgot he existed.
Yeah,
He's he isn't really used all that much, at least from what I recall. Like,
he siphoned off nuclear power at times. A lot of times he makes like heroic sacrifices because he can eat radiation. Um, but
I mean,
generally speaking, it's like, okay, we need a guy to take the fall, or we need a guy to show that this dude, whoever is fighting, is like a big deal. And
yeah, he's the stopgap before the true hero shows up. Yeah,
I'm gonna
that's
say B. I'm gonna say B. He just canonically loses in now.
which
People
is
are gonna be like, in the
sad because
comics, he does this, and that's not what we're talking about. Just general. If you're a general audience
this
member
is
and you've
public
seen Captain
perception. And again, like I haven't seen a lot of things with him in it. He might be super strong in a lot of showings. And
Okay,
maybe it's my perception also. I just don't really know all that much about him, and I haven't seen him win very
sure.
much ever.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
Booster
scrape my
Gold.
brain. Okay,
Okay,
he's just the comedic relief who actually has
yeah,
some powers
he's
behind him.
always portrayed. So he's guy from the future with like year 4000 technology or something like that. Um,
He's a janitor who stole the suit.
he's
Yeah.
kind of a time lord. I would say maybe B. He's just somewhere in that mid tier. I can't think of anything amazing that he's done, but like on paper,
He's
he's
done a
supposed to be
few
really
really
powerful.
good things, and he has done some cool things. But again, perception kind of kills him as he's that comic relief character that from the
Right.
future that
Like
always
he's
screws
he's a
something up.
joke in
He's a
Justice League
joke
Unlimited.
character, and like, hey, you need to have characters that do that. Can't be nitty gritty all the time. Makes for a very
Hawkman,
dull.
I feel like Hawkman and by extension Hawkgirl are the definition of B. Like
Yeah.
they fly, they have super strength, so they can, and they've got nth metal, so technically they can hit hard enough to do damage to things because they've got like, you know, DC's adamantium equivalent. There also some talk about their mace being anti-magic. I don't know if that's limited to Justice League Unlimited or if that's, whatever, but they've got a electrically powered mace. But I can't put them any higher than B, but I don't want to put them lower because they are superhumans with flight and, I mean, whatever.
As
Um,
far as I'm concerned, there's a whole race of these beings. There's a whole,
Thanagarians. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, there's like,
Now,
they attempted to
supposedly
conquer
the metal
things.
and the weapons are special to them. Like there's a race of them, but like there's different canonical things saying that the wings were made or the wings were like enhanced with metal. There's a lot of different origins for these guys. But anyway, go ahead.
As far as I'm concerned, and again, I'm rolling off of a lot of knowledge from shows, not comics, because I didn't
Right.
read a whole lot of these comics. I when has either character ever shown in Justice League Unlimited specifically, Hawkgirl gets way more screen time than Hawkman, from what I recall. But and I might be wrong there. But
No, she does for sure.
it's been a long while since I saw that show.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to go hit something pretty hard, and I'm going to get hit.
Yeah,
That's
so the
basically
interesting
what it
things
is.
that she does is she has a mace that seems to be able to hurt the undead more for whatever reason. I don't know, again, if it's like anti-magic. Whenever they get trapped by the Justice Lords, she's able to break free of the containment. So she's pretty tough, and she can channel the electricity that's being used to zap them into her mace, which is kind of neat. But I mean, in general, Hawkman shows up against Doomsday in Justice League Doomsday and gets like 2 hit and is
Yeah,
done.
that's okay. So the funny thing is why I brought up the conquering army thing is they are just part of a conquering army. Them on
Sure.
their own, they're pretty strong. Yeah, they're stronger than baseline humans, but their strength is in having multiple of them.
Right.
They're shock troopers basically, and that's
Yeah.
not a bad thing. It just makes them a little not all that impressive.
Right. If you had an army of Kryptonians, they're going to make them much weaker than Superman. Superman has to be the last of his race, or like it's just broken.
Yeah,
Zatara.
that would be it. Well, you're not
Or
technically wrong.
right. The chick with the magic. I'm
Z. Just call her Z and it works. But
Z. Okay, so Z. I more of a
so
utility character. I feel like a C, maybe. I don't. I've
so
never
the
seen her do
the funny
anything
thing,
crazy.
so the funny thing is that she can do pretty much anything as long as she
Right.
can say it backwards, which is a pretty good handicap when you realize that saying complicated things backwards is kind of hard.
Sure.
Uh, she has done quite a few things as far as I'm concerned. She's in Justice League Dark. Don't know if you
Yeah.
saw that one, but she's pretty cool. She can do a lot of things, and she's connected mildly to Dr. Fate a couple of times.
Yeah. I
But
think she's his daughter or something.
no, her father is a magician. At times, Dr. Fate is the helmet, by the way. The Dr.
Right.
Fate's got
Right. Right.
identity
Right.
attached to the helmet, and well, that was specifically in Justice League where
Well,
her
because in
father.
Young Justice, her dad takes on the mantle of
Yeah,
Doctor.
no, it was Young
Yeah.
Justice
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he puts on the helmet. But I would put her in C. I'd put her in
Yeah.
C because she's just a mainline human.
Okay.
This is
So
kind of falling under if you get a good sniper shot on them, can you kill them? And the C tier is yes. The B tier is no. They can probably survive it.
right. So Supergirl, I feel like Supergirl is just A. She's always that people are gonna be like, oh, she was a Red Lantern in one of the comics or something. Great. But like in general, Justice League Unlimited, Power Girl beats her up. She's always showed as kind of second to Superman. The Supergirl movie, she has a lot less. She's just young, inexperienced Superman in most of her depictions.
Yeah.
So I would say one step below. I would say that Doctor Fate and Superman, even the Flash and a lot of the A tiers would probably beat her. She might even be B. I don't know. I feel like A just because of her raw power.
Well, there's a lot of potential there, and unfortunately, she's kind of steamrolled over. Well, she's not Superman; she's Supergirl. And it's like, okay, she can do anything Superman can do, as far as I know. I might be
Right.
completely wrong. She just doesn't because she's not written that way. She's usually written as the younger cousin, so
Right.
she's not really shown winning, as far as I'm concerned. I hope the comments all laugh at me for all the wrong things I've said and all the wrong things you said and all the
Well,
things
and
we've
we're just talking
screwed
about
up.
as
But like,
general fans. So if they say, hey,
oh
there's
yeah,
some unique thing that she's done, it's like, yeah, but in general, she's
yeah,
just portrayed as the young, inexperienced.
oh yeah, 100%. So I would put her in A for the simple point of she doesn't exactly go down easy. So and she's more than a wall, as far as
Right.
I'm concerned.
Okay, so Martian Manhunter, this one gets into one that I feel like, if written properly, could kind of beat anyone. He can shapeshift, phase through solid objects, attack your mind with mental attacks. He's supposedly super strong, can fly, like as strong as Superman in some of his comics. But say like if in the Justice League animated show, I never felt that he was that strong. In Justice League Doom, he was never portrayed that strong. I would say that this is one where it's on paper, if written properly, he could beat anybody, unless they have some very specific way to fight him. And what's sad is a lot of the time that's how they'll beat him. Like in Justice League Doom, they injected him with a poison that made him secrete a flammable chemical that caught him on fire. And his weakness fire because his planet was like his people were burned and he has like a psychological trauma.
Well, take
same thing
way,
with
right?
Justice League Doomsday. They throw him into a thing of propane and catch him on fire. I feel like they just sideline this dude a lot.
Even though he's really because he's really strong. He can beat anyone. He can basically beat anyone because he can know their mind.
He can shapeshift. I mean, yeah.
The problem with Martian Manhunter comes down that in a lot of different depictions, there's a whole race of Martians still around. And like his niece, Miss Martian. But like, take it this way. He has only really ever been beat via the fire thing. There's never, I can't think of any time off the top of my head that he has not been beaten by the fire thing. Maybe Justice League Unlimited, that he got captured by humans. I don't know. Like, it, like, as far as I'm concerned, they've only ever used that one trick to beat him. Prove me wrong, but that.
Yeah, but I never
there's
feel
no
like
good
he's
way
gonna roll
to always work.
Right. I never feel like though what's interesting about him is that even though he has these mind attacks, which should be devastating, they just don't use them. Like I never feel like, oh, good, Martian Manhunter's shown up and he's gonna auto defeat the bad guy, even though he kind of should.
Yeah, and that's how it goes. He should win a lot of the times, and he doesn't because they had a fire, and it's
like if Itachi had superpowers.
Like, yeah, kind of. Like that's fine, but at the same time, again, I would put him in A.
Me too,
because he's got that same potential that doesn't really live up to it, which is sad because he's a good character.
Okay, I feel like Aquaman's another B. I feel like most of the time he is portrayed as a stronger than average, tougher than average dude with a fork. You know, like, and I don't want to be mean, but like they just underutilize the garbage out of him. He's the leader of the Atlanteans. He's probably the strongest one of them. He commands an army, and yet 9 out of 10, like Justice League Doom,
you're cutting out a little bit. Uh-oh.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Did you lose me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Well, a bit of a cut there.
Yeah, so yeah, that's okay. We'll just cut it. So Aquaman, again, like I said, super strong dude with a fork. The
sad thing about Aquaman, in my mind, is I don't know his power set all that well. I know he can talk to fish. I know he can control water in some way. I don't know if he's like that strong of a hydrokinetic. But as far as I'm aware,
but that power changes too. Like sometimes he's given that power, sometimes he's not.
Okay, so there's a weird thing. I'll take Avatar for example, right? Bloodbending. Bloodbending is so specifically restricted in Avatar until Legend of Korra, but we aren't going to talk about that one. That like it's only available under a full moon. Why? Yeah, because controlling the water in people's blood, is kind of bullshit. Like it's kind of broken. I don't know if he can do that. Can he? I don't know. He's heroically inclined, so I don't know if he ever would. But at the same time, he feels like he's got a lot of potential, and if they ever nailed down exactly what he can do, Atlanteans aren't exactly bottom of the barrel. And then again, like he survived having his hand cut off, like in at least 4 or 5 different depictions. Like,
Right.
he's not a weakling. I would put him in A, frankly. They just give him the
See, the
shaft a lot of
only
the time.
problem with putting him in A is that in my mind, if he fought Captain Atom or Steel, now if he's on his home turf, which they never write him as, remember,
Yeah, they
this is
never
how
put him
he's
in his
written.
own turn.
If he was on his home turf, A or S, right? If he's fighting underwater, A or S. But if not, I mean, I don't,
Well,
outside of the Atlantis movie that he's in, which he still doesn't even really shine. He fights Ocean Master, who's like another version of him, and he
yeah.
fights Black Manta, which is a dude in a suit.
I
Um,
guess take it this way, right? Steel. He'll only be as strong as his hammer and his suit. Ray Palmer will only be as strong as his ability to think through using his powers. As in, I have a strategy using my powers along the way. More often than not, he just beats his enemy using his mind. Aquaman has the ability to, roughly, I can look this up later, but as far as I'm concerned, has power over water and fish. Do you know how much water there is absolutely everywhere?
well, that's what kills me. Because
Like,
it's not, it's how he's presented. It's not what,
exactly. Like, that's why I would put him in A, is not only because of his. So, how I'm looking at this tier list is basically D is the pretty much the strongest human baseline. C
right.
is can probably take a hit from a sniper rifle and die if they don't think. B is the heavy hitter, but isn't really all that strong in the grand scheme of things. And A is
Sure.
could be an S, but is
It's
probably
just never
gauged
written that
by
way.
never written that way. Has the potential to be really, really strong. Like, I'm pretty sure in at least 2 or 3, I could be very wrong, uh, different depictions of Aquaman, the Atlanteans conquer the world. Like, they aren't they aren't weak. They aren't weak at all, and he's very strong, even on land. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. They do him dirty a lot of the time.
Okay, so Green Lantern. I feel like Green Lantern is another example of could be an S if written right, but Justice League, yeah, I think it's Justice League War. He canonically loses to Superman. Justice League Doomsday canonically loses to Doomsday. I don't know, man. Green Lantern is interesting in that he can make anything he can imagine, and that is just we talked about that a lot. I feel like you can't put him.
Yeah.
I feel like he's an A.
So
Um,
here's the thing. The fact that the Green Lantern ring is it's a cop badge. It's a space cop badge. There's a lot of Green Lanterns. Now, there was a Green Lantern before the usual depictions of Green Lantern. But as far as I'm concerned, Green Lantern is kind of weirdly, they wrote themselves into a corner as far as the Green Lanterns.
sure.
Because Green Lanterns are powered off of willpower. That's why you have people like Guy Gardner, who is the most usually depicted as very arrogant. He's willful. That's why he's a good Green Lantern. Like, because he can use the ring to the full potential. Well, not the full potential, but you get my idea.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
when
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
lose your willpower to fight, you're essentially shooting yourself in the foot. Now,
Right.
imagination does come along that way. Yeah, I have the willpower to make this rock. You kind of need imagination to, actually make something more complicated than a ball or something. But at the same time, they're meant to take on a variety of different threats, and they can. I would agree with putting him in S. And in general, like,
Or in S or in
I'm
A?
sorry,
Because I
pardon,
would say A.
A. Yeah, pardon, A.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like, more than one Green Lantern, more than one intelligent, willful Green Lantern can probably put down some of the heaviest hitters. But as far as I'm concerned, it's usually, well, all right, he's going to make a bulldozer. All right, he's going to make a jet. All right, he's going to make a slide or something. I don't know. I just never seen him make very many complicated things because I suppose the more complicated the object is, the more compressed your willpower needs to be. I could be wrong.
Sure. And I think Wonder Woman is in that same tier A. She's never depicted as strong as Superman. She's always depicted, though, at the top of the heap. Could be an S, but isn't depicted that way. At least in my experience with it, from Justice League, from Justice League Doom, from Justice League Doomsday. I mean,
Justice League
canonically loses
Unlimited,
to
Young
Doomsday.
Justice, the
Right.
Justice League movie. Like, she's strong. Yep, she's 100% very strong. She is not the strongest though, and that's kind of where she fits most of the time. Like, weirdly, she's a lot more human than Superman in some
Right.
regards, mainly
Well,
because
she has to
she's
have the bracelets to block bullets. Like in some cases,
yeah,
she's not even bulletproof.
no. Like, again, and that speaks to her speed that she's able to move her wrist to block a bullet, which is really impressive as far as I'm concerned. But as far as what she's done a lot of cool things. She's
Yeah.
very impressive. Has she fought space conquerors? And maybe she has. I don't know. But I just
Yeah,
can't think, like,
she's
within.
fought against Darkseid with the Justice League and blinded out one of Darkseid's eyes. I mean, she's
She's
up
strong.
there.
Oh, yeah. She's
Yeah, for
definitely up
sure.
there. Now, written in a way where she has her full potential, or as people would put her as. Now, there's a fine line between a character that has no realism behind it and a character that is essentially kicked to the curb. Wonder
Right.
Woman has a lot of realism behind her, I'm sure that was never said before. But as far as I'm concerned, she hits things with a sword or a shield, or she ties them up with a lasso, and she blocks bullets with her bracelet or throws a tiara, as ridiculous as that sounds. She's going to hit something, she's going to fly. She doesn't really have any very flashy powers. She can defeat more enemies than, say, Hawkman. Like, she's strong. Yeah, I'd put her in A.
Okay, so I think that's going to be our list. Right now, I just want to tell everybody to like, subscribe, all that jazz.